Hello everyone, welcome to the course on simulating fluid flows using Python. I hope you all are doing good and staying safe during these challenging times. Before I begin, I would like to thank these guys for taking an extra step towards supporting this channel. So far, we have looked at the diffusion problems in a variety of ways in 1 dimensions and 2 dimensions, including the sources. So that discussion until now hasn't really considered the problem of fluid flow. So diffusion can occur in heat transfer problems or concentration diffusion problems, but we haven't really looked at how the fluid flow would affect these kind of situations. So today onwards, we would like to include the effect of fluid motion, and that is why in the lecture today I'm going to talk, or rather I'm going to introduce the convection diffusion phenomena. So here we'll first talk about the governing equation of this problem, that is the convection diffusion problem. And in the later half of this lecture, we would use the finite volume approach in order to discretize this governing equation. And just like before, we would start with a 1D case and we'd do a quite bit of investigation on that in order to really understand how to do the discretization for these kind of problems. So in the lecture today, we'll talk about a central differencing based approach. So that is going to be one of the ways in which we are going to understand this convection diffusion problem. So without wasting any further time, let's get started. So let me start by talking about the governing equation of this physical phenomena, and I would recommend some of the textbooks that I've given in the description of this video if you want a more detailed inquisitive inquiry for that. But here I would briefly summarize as to what the physical quantities are and how they are mathematically modeled. And for the case of demonstration, I am taking a one-dimensional example. So for a steady one-dimensional case with constant fluid properties or the material properties, we have two terms in the equation now. So recall that when we only had the conduction or the diffusion, there we had this particular green term on the right, that is d over dx of some gamma d phi over dx. So here I've taken a general variable that is called as phi that is getting diffused according to this particular term. And when we talk about convection, then we say that the convection is mathematically modeled in x direction, in this case by this term, that is d over dx of rho u phi. So here rho is the density of the fluid, u is the velocity of the fluid in x direction, and phi is the same variable that we are talking about. So previously we had looked at temperature as phi, but now I want to make things more general, because as we would see, this particular equation would be carried over to momentum equations as well, where phi would be taking values of the velocity components, and we would see that if we take phi equals to 1, then we would get the continuity equation later on. So that is something that we would do later, but for now let us just focus on that we are taking phi as a general variable rather than a specific variable that we had taken so far, which was the temperature itself. Now allow me to talk about a little bit about these processes. So the first process is called as convection, and that basically represents the transport of phi, that is the transport of this variable phi due to the fluid motion. So as I was saying that now we are going to include the effects of fluid motion, and that is what is taken care in the convection term. Sometimes in some of the textbook you can find similar expressions for the advection, or they represent or they name the convection process as advection. So to be very specific, advection is the right word, but in some books they use convection interchangeably for it, and the textbook that we are going to refer, that is the textbook of Versteeg and Malala-Sekra, that takes in the name of convection. So convection usually is a combination of advection and conduction in some cases, in some textbooks, but here we are going to use that interchangeably. So just a heads up for that. So because this transport of phi is due to the fluid motion, therefore the convection is a very strongly dependent property on the fluid velocity, and when we say velocity, we are talking about both the magnitude and direction. So if the fluid velocity is going this way, then the convective transport would also be this way and vice versa. Whereas on the other hand, the diffusion is transport of phi, again the transport of phi, but due to diffusive phenomena. And the diffusion here, I'm saying it's a directionally less choosy. It is a little bit choosy, but it depends on the gradients. So if there are gradients in phi, so let us say phi is temperature, then if there is a gradient in phi, if there is a gradient in temperature, then heat would just flow. That we all know from the personal experiences. So the convection was dependent on the fluid velocity, whereas the diffusion is dependent on the gradients. So that is what we are understanding by these two mathematical terms, that they represent two different physical processes that are in balance with each other. So convection diffusion equation, it represents a balance of two transport phenomena due to two different transport processes. I hope that makes sense, and now you might be a little bit more comfortable with the convection diffusion equation. So I needed this kind of comfort because now we are going to mathematically look at it. So therefore I wanted to create a physical background before we hit on that. And once again, if you really want to learn more about it, and especially in 2D and 3D, I highly recommend the textbooks that I've given in the description of this video. So now let us look at the finite volume discretization. So again, we are going to take the example of steady one-dimensional case with constant properties. That's the governing equation is given by this red and green equation. So here again, if I take the one-dimensional grid system that we have adopted for the conduction problem, we know that the point of interest would have a small finite volume around it with faces small e and small w. And again, the principle remains the same, that we consider our finite volume and we volumetrically integrate the governing equation. So once we do that, we simply have the volume integral sitting on both the sides. And remember that we have already dealt with this kind of scenario using the Gauss divergence theorem. And again, you can see that there's a gradient here and we have a volumetric integral. So we would be able to use the Gauss divergence theorem again on the left hand side as well. So taking these terms here, so please ignore the part on the right, on the bottom, I might have not animated that. So if we use the Gauss divergence theorem on both the sides, we see that this is the term you might be familiar with. So we have a normal vector times the term inside the gradient and integrated over the area, over the surface area. And the same would hold true for the left hand side, that the normal vector times the term inside the gradient, which is rho u phi integrated over the area. So now if I consider my finite volume here, we know that on the east face this normal vector is pointing in the positive x direction, that is normal vector is nothing but I cap in the Cartesian system, and on the west face the normal vector is minus I cap. So we are going to repeat the similar procedure that we have adopted for the two different for the conduction problem for the two different faces, and we are going to ignore the top faces and the bottom faces because their normal vectors are j cap and minus j cap, and there are no variations in the y domain because this is a 1D problem. So the only contributions to these integral would be from these x or rather these east and west faces. So if we do that, we know that we can write the left hand side as, when we integrate it, we can write rho u phi, that was the term inside the brackets, multiplied by the area at the east face, minus rho u phi a multiplied by or rather the entire thing evaluated at the west face. And recall that we had the same expression that we had derived previously on the right hand side, that's gamma times a times d phi over dx at east face. So previously we had a k, the thermal conductivity, instead of gamma, and we had temperature instead of phi. So this is a more general formulation and that is why we are sticking to it now. And again we would have the same expression evaluated on the west face. So at this point we are doing a very general evaluation of the convection diffusion problem, but we have to assume something in order to proceed from here, and that is where the different kind of schemes actually come into the picture. So that is why we have to choose regarding the discretization schemes, and in this course we are going to talk about 4 of the very popular schemes. So the first one that we are going to talk about today is a central differencing scheme, followed by a discussion of upwind scheme in upcoming lectures. Then we'll talk about a hybrid scheme, that is basically some sort of hybrid of these first and the second type of schemes. And finally in this course we'll talk about what is called as a quick scheme. So you don't really have to get scared right now. We are going to build up on the central differencing scheme, which we have also looked at. Recall that we have looked at the central differencing scheme for the conduction problem. So we are going to stick to that for now and try to use the same scheme for convection diffusion problem. So recall that in the central differencing scheme, we had this kind of grid system that we have points P and E and W. And we use this piecewise linear kind of profiles between these 2 points, any 2 grid points, and based on that we were able to evaluate the gradients, these first gradients here. So the d phi over dx at the east face is nothing but the phi at E minus phi at P divided by H, and similarly the d phi over dx at the west face was given by this expression. So this is nothing but just linear profile fitting between any 2 grid points, and you can see that if we have a linear profile between capital P and capital E, that is this particular line, the slope of which is given by this, then we can also define phi at small e. So phi at small e becomes the average value of the grid points surrounding it, because it's a linear variation. Because the linear variation is there, that is why we can write it this way. And I'll show you very shortly as to why I'm talking about this, why we are talking about phi at small e and phi at small w. So we have similarly phi at small w is equals to phi at capital W here. So I'm talking about this line here. So phi at capital W plus phi at capital P divided by 2. So we're going to use these 4 formulas in the governing equation or the discretized version of governing equation. So let us look at that for now. So we had this kind of expression. So I have just taken apart all these small e and small w. So we had rho a u phi at all these points, and now you can see that I have a phi at small e sitting here, I have a phi at small w sitting here, I have this gradient term that I have replaced using our previous knowledge, that the d phi over dx term has been replaced here. And in order to proceed further, now we can simplify the problem. So the simplifications that I'm taking here is that we have constant properties, that is the density of the fluid and the diffusivity of the material, that is the gamma and rho. They do not vary with distance or time. So because it's a steady problem, so we have already assumed that, but here we are more focused on the distance aspect. The second assumption is, or the second simplification is, that we are talking about a uniform cross section and grid spacing. So this AE and AW, they are equivalent to each other, and similarly the grid spacings H of PE and H of WP, they are also equal. And finally we are talking about a case of a uniform convection velocity, that is this U, E and UW, they are equivalent to each other. So I know that this is quite a bit of simplification, but you would see that the standard approach would more or less be the same even if we don't use these kind of approximations, but for the purpose of demonstration you will see that this would make our lives much lot easier. So now we would plug in the values of phi at small e and phi at small w back into this equation, and let us see what happens. So after using these approximations, so I have replaced the rho a and u by simply rho a and u irrespective of their phases, because they are treated as constants, and I have replaced these phi e and phi w by their respected average values. So now you can see that we can cancel out the areas because they are appearing on the left and right hand side. So we are given with this particular equation. Now we have some terms that are sort of appearing in a pair. So you can see that this particular term we have rho into u, and we have this term that is gamma over h. Apart from these terms we have the equation in terms of phi. So therefore what we do is we define certain parameters. We call this combination of rho into u as f, capital F, and physically the value of f, if you remember, it represents the mass flow rate per unit area. So the mass flow rate is rho into A into U. So the area is missing from here. That is why I'm calling it as per unit area. And similarly, I define another expression called as capital D as gamma over H. So this is called as a diffusion conductance. So if I plug these terms in my original equation, we are left with this nice form of equation here, which is an equation in terms of different phi, F and D. And now it is very easy to assemble this equation in our standard form of AP phi P equals to AE phi E plus AW phi W. So this should be AE phi E here. And in this case, the coefficients AE and AW can be evaluated just by rearranging this equation, and AW would come out as D plus F by 2, AE would come out as D minus F by 2, and AP would come out as the sum of these two coefficients, which would again simply be equals to 2D, but I am keeping this F by 2 to convince you that this summation is nothing but the summation of the neighboring coefficient. So we had looked at a simplified version of the convection diffusion equation using the central differencing approach, but I would also give you pointers on how you can adopt a generalized version as well. So a more general expression, again still for the constant area case, so we are still holding true for the constant area simplification. So rather than having F here, we have F at small e and F at small w, and similarly we would have D at small e and D at small w. But here, because I'm assuming that the constant area is holding true, I'm also assuming that the grid property is also constant. So therefore we are having the same D here. So here we are saying that the density could change with space, and also the convection velocity could be a function of space. So that variation could be encapsulated in this Fe and Fw. And now if we cast this equation in this AP phi P form, again there's a E missing from here, so I'm sorry from that. So in this case, the AW would be D plus Fw by 2 and AE would be D minus Fe by 2. And if you go for this AP now, the AP would come out as D minus Fw by 2 plus D plus Fe by 2, which is not exactly equal to AW plus AE. It has a contribution that is plus Fe minus Fw. So at a first look, it would look like the coefficient is not exactly equal to this neighboring coefficient sum, but it has this extra weightage from Fe minus Fw. But if you remember that F represents the flow rate per unit mass, per unit area, that is the mass flow rate per unit area, then we know that from the flow continuity, because the flow, whatever flow comes in from one side, it has to leave the other side, then this rho into U, that multiplication, it has to be the same. So therefore Fe is nothing but Fw, and again I'm just writing this as a general form, but you would see that AP is equals to AW plus AE. That expression still holds true. So this is the story about the discretization of the convection diffusion equation, or sometimes it's simply abbreviated as the CD equation using the central differencing scheme. So again, in order to reinforce this understanding, we take a numerical example. So we'll take this example of a one-dimensional domain that is 1 unit in length. We have x equals to 0 on the left boundary and we have x equals to 1 on the right boundary. And we have the boundary conditions as a Dirichlet boundary condition where phi is 1 on the left and phi is 0 on the right boundary. And we have taken a convection velocity of 0.1 meter per second. And we are also given the material properties and the fluid properties as 1 kg per meter cube for the density and 0.1 kg per meter second for the diffusivity. So the good thing about this problem is, and the reason I have taken this problem is that we know the exact solution that is given by this exponential variation on the bottom. So we are going to talk about this problem as to how to solve this problem in Python probably 2 lectures from now, but we'll use this problem to demonstrate a few important things about the properties of the discretization schemes. So basically in the next lecture, I'll present you the model results for this numerical problem. And what that means is that without actually showing you what I've done, I'll show you what the result of this problem is, so that we can understand a little bit about the physical nature of these problems or these kind of problems, and specifically we'll talk about some of the issues with the central differencing scheme. So we'll see that if we change certain properties of the system, then we'll see that the central differencing scheme would create some issues that are very complicated at first look. So we'll talk about that as to why they are appearing, and we'll use the properties, or we'll talk about the properties of discretization scheme. Specifically, we'll assess the central differencing scheme, and we'll try to understand what's the real issue behind the usage of central differencing scheme in such kind of problems. So now we are going a little bit critical investigation of discretization schemes that we have not looked at before, but this is going to be very interesting topic, because that would give you an idea of the limitations of different kind of schemes. So remember that in various CFD solvers, you are given a choice of various schemes, and sometimes you just mindlessly pick any scheme and try to see if that works out. But these kind of assessment would give you an idea as to where exactly we should actually apply these schemes irrespective of the situations. So hopefully in the next few lectures I'll be able to convince you regarding that. But for now, please go through this lecture, please go through the derivation, try to derive things yourself and try to get that AP 5P kind of equation and the coefficients. I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them down in the comments, or you can also email me. My email ID is given here. And until the next lecture, please stay safe. And we know that we are going through a very tough time. So please stay safe, stay indoors as much as you can, wear a mask when you go outside. Until then, see you, take care, and bye-bye.